Welcome back to Classic Game Room, the podcast. I can do that better. Hang on. There you go. Got to descend the whole way through the transformation process. That's when Jazz transforms into the Porsche and then back into the robot and back into the Porsche with the windows rolled down so he can blast the rock music, like the generic rock music, because they didn't have the license to get anything good. Hey, you know what was fun was the cheap beer off last week. That was a good time. But I can't do that today. I can't do a three-way Hootafeets with 3 different beers. You want to know why? Because I'm going out to play pinball later. That's right. And unless I want to JT myself, I gotta keep it under wraps, you know. In a perfect world, we'd all have cool transforming cars with personalities of their own. Except Bumblebee. I wouldn't want Bumblebee. Bumblebee was basically like the Snarf of the Transformers, or Orko of the Transformers, right? Like you didn't want to actually like see Snarf or Orko, like that. Those were for the dumb kids that were like too stupid to figure out how awesome the rest of the cartoon was. You know, you want to watch like Lion-O and Panthro beat the crap out of monsters, and Snarf is just like being stupid off in the corner, like ha, that's funny because I'm a moron. And Orko, I mean that's literally a distraction from staring at Tila. Like get out of the way. We need self-driving cars that transform into robots with guns, and Tila in the passenger seat. Did I say that out loud? I did. Hey, good news, Omega Ronin is going to vinyl. It's happening. The Omega Ronin project, it's up on Kickstarter. You can check it out. We made it. We're going to vinyl. And there's going to be a comic book, or graphic novel, which sounds more serious. Basically just a big comic book with a hardcover, so that kind of makes it a graphic novel. A novelization of how future people weaponize 1980s music videos to fight robots a million years from now. Yeah. I just got finished earlier drawing some VHS tapes and putting the reflex on the main character's shirt. There'll be a question mark on the back, and if you don't get the reference, well, you're probably not my demographic. So check it out, Omega Ronin on Kickstarter. We're still trying to figure out how to market it, but it's actually kind of fun. After having spent like a year trying to figure out whatever mess social media has turned into, and I've since abandoned that plan, anything else just is like fun. Like I could go outside and just punch cinder blocks, and that would be fun compared to trying to figure out TikTok. I've come to the conclusion that if you want to be good at social media, you just have to lobotomize yourself, which sounds like a pretty good plot for another comic book. Maybe I'll look into that one. After Omega Ronin, by the way, for anyone who cares, we are going to be rolling out another project for wrapping up Ethel the Cyborg Ninja 3, which has been on the back burner for like 3 years. It's 80% done, so you know what? Let's just get it done this year. That book's a lot of fun to draw. Ed Station 1's in it, Jesus the Coked Up Chicken, Ethel, Wind Squid, and it's just like complete nonsense in the Cosmic Death Brick. It's a really good book, actually. It's huge, so it's taken a while to just put it all together. And unlike Omega Ronin, actually makes sense. Like I know maybe it doesn't sound like it makes sense up front, but like when you read the whole thing, like there's actually an ending. So I mean, it's like Harry Potter. I mean, I could take like 1 year to make it, or like 50, and it would still end in the same place. It's just a matter of how much nonsense is going to take place between the start and the finish. Ethel, on the other hand, is really more of a nebulous plot. It's just, it's insane. But the first 3 issues together are a lot of fun to read. Tons of action and space adventure and nonsense, and I'm putting them all together into one big hardcover. And cleaning up some of the stuff from the first book that I can do better now. It'll be like that remake of E.T. I'll go in and remove all the guns and replace them with bigger guns. We need more El Caminos, not less, not fewer. Fewer El Caminos is bad. You should be punched for saying that. Just think how much better life would be right now if instead of using social media, people were just driving around in El Caminos and blasting Van Halen. My favorite TikTokers aren't making enough videos. I just backed over your favorite TikTokers in a custom van. I pity the fool that don't have a vision of the A-Team van with the red wheels. It's like the red wheels and the racing stripe and the little wing that serves no purpose except unless somebody might need. Did anybody ever hang on that wing in the back and shoot people while they were driving? Maybe that's the wing they can use when Airwolf swoops down with like a tow hook and picks up the custom van and transports it somewhere else. But then BA would complain because they'd be flying. I gotta put some thought into this one. So, I don't have anything at all to talk about, but I did watch Star Trek IV last night. Love that movie. Is it one of the best 80s movies, though? You know, a couple weeks ago, I did, like the top... basically, it was like the top 11 TV show theme songs from the 80s. That was fun. If you haven't heard that one, go listen to it. Miami Vice is in there, Magnum P.I., Airwolf, Knight Rider, Buck Rogers, all the good stuff. The best of the best of the best of the 80s, which were the best of everything that humans ever came up with, ever. Which is basically the plot of Omega Ronin. Well, sort of. There's also robots and guns, and the space shuttle with guns and robots. But how can you go on tour if you don't have a custom van in the future, which is basically just the space shuttle with an El Camino attachment? Anyway, where was I? Top 10 stuff or whatever. It's such a cheap thing, but sometimes funny if you actually put some thought into it. And I was going to do like a top 10 1980s movies, but like that's a serious project. Like trying to just, you know, even if it's just fun, like coming up with just like a somewhat mindful ranking of like the legitimate best 10 movies of the 1980s. That basically comes down to the best 10 movies of all time. You know, Lawrence of Arabia versus RoboCop. I mean, come on, please. And I like Lawrence of Arabia, though I will point out it does lack custom vans. It also lacks scumbags doing coke off of hookers. Like, it's possible that RoboCop is the best movie of all time, but I got to put a little more thought into that, which makes ranking the top 10 80s movies kind of difficult. So immediately I need to remove all of the popular crap like Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, Breakfast Club. Breakfast Club is a seriously overrated movie. I said it. The best part about Breakfast Club is, in addition to Judd Nelson, who voices Hot Rod in the Transformers movie, Simple Minds. Don't You Forget About Me is really one of the best songs from the 80s. Like, that song is so good, it actually makes that movie just like a better movie. And also the one guy's in Die Hard, so that's kind of cool. And Emilio's in Free Jack. I love Free Jack. It's such a ridiculous movie. It's so good. Did anyone else see Bratz, by the way, the documentary about the Brat Pack? It just seemed like a therapy session for Andrew McCarthy, didn't it? Like, it was kind of a weird... I don't have anything bad to say about it, really. It just seemed like he was really hung up on this whole being called the Brat Pack thing, and not one of the people he interviewed said not one of the interviews said the obvious thing, which is they should have thanked the writer up and down until the end of time for giving them a label and basically just like helping their careers. No, I think the part of it was like, did it help our careers? I mean, I would say yes, but you know, whatever. Demi Moore seems like the only one who kind of came close to saying that. And I love Emilio's interview part of it. He looked like he was kind of bored 5 minutes in and just wanted to go do something else. Anyway, those movies are all dumb. Ferris Bueller, that's a really good one. But you know, if RoboCop was in The Breakfast Club, that would have made it a much better movie. You know. They're all in detention, which means they're in trouble. And what's RoboCop's favorite thing to say? Stay out of trouble. And then you shoot them all, and then it would like roll the credits. It'd be awesome. And Judd Nelson could transform into Hot Rod and just drive away. This is basically how my mind works at all moments of the day. He's also in New Jack City. That one's legit. I love that Transformers the movie is like 6 degrees of separation from everything, including the Orson Welles show, which was featured in the Muppets documentary, the Jim Henson documentary, which is really good, by the way. If you haven't seen that, check that one out. I did not know the Orson Welles show existed. Now I feel like I need to watch all of those on Laserdisc. Like, I love Orson Welles. It's like he's trying to put acting into an interview, and it just seems so awkward but incredible at the same time. Yes, for those of you who don't know, in addition to doing stuff like Citizen Kane or whatever, more importantly, Orson Welles voices Unicron. It's great. Frickin' Leonard Nimoy's in that movie. Oh, that brings me back full circle to Star Trek 4. All right. Leonard Nimoy, by the way, is a very underrated director. That's a really good movie. But is it one of the best from the 80s? So we got RoboCop, Predator, Die Hard, Lethal Weapon. The Empire Strikes Back. It's 1980. Blade Runner. Oh, this is impossible. I can't do this on the fly. You got Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Thing, Aliens. Oh, my mind is spinning. How do you rank these things? Like, Aliens is definitely up there. Like, the only thing that even comes close to hurting Aliens is that Alien is arguably a better movie. But, like, they're two totally different movies, so that really shouldn't even matter. You see, what really makes 80s movies good, in addition to everything, especially the hair, is that they're quotable. And that before, our whole, whatever you want to call it, just our media, our current media situation, which is just scattered and fragmented. Like before all the social media stuff and before all the trillion and bazillion YouTube videos and stuff, people watched like the same movie, so we can all quote the same movies. I mean, whenever anyone says, "Stay Frosty," you know exactly where that's from. And what's the most quotable movie of the 80s? What's the most quotable movie of all time? No, I didn't see you playing with your dolls again. Spaceballs. I'm my own best friend. There's no replacement for John Candy. All right, so I'm holding out my fingers now. See, there's 10 of them. Let's see, we got RoboCop, obviously, Predator, it's a given. The Empire Strikes Back, for sure. Blade Runner, Spaceballs. Okay, it's 5. Then you got Aliens. Oh, man. Like, it's hard because you got to put in, like, it's got to be, like, see, there's The Thing. Then there's also Big Trouble in Little China. Then you've also got They Live. Oh, man, I need to go out and rent some VHS tapes. So back to the Omega Ronin thing. So VHS tapes are very important in the Omega Ronin story, and also they're very important in the battle against futuristic murder robots a million years in the future. Okay. So what happens here? I'll give you a little backstory on this. So in the 21st century, people invent robots, artificial intelligence, and they all turn into a bunch of idiots because of social media. So obviously the robots become self-aware and kill everybody because people suck. And yes, the Terminator definitely needs to be on that list too. God damn it! Maybe it should be the top 20 movies from the 80s, but even that's going to be tough to narrow down. Anyway, Army of Darkness is the 90s, so we can at least write that one off. That's a totally different decade. Anyway, there's this top secret NASA project in the 80s where they discover this alien cry for help from a distant civilization, and they build this moon base, a secret moon base. That's what they need the space shuttle to get back and forth from. Like a custom van, except it has wings and, whatever, flies in space. I mean, a custom van can also fly in space, but it needs, like, jet attachments and stuff. If a Winnebago can fly in space, so can a custom van. Anyway. There's this secret moon base, and it's like a big secret moon base, where they have this huge 1980s supercomputer. So, not as powerful as an Apple Watch, but a huge, powerful supercomputer that's trying to, like, decipher this deep space signal. And there's lots of scientists living there, and to keep themselves busy, they have all of their favorite music videos and movies on VHS tapes. So there's like thousands of VHS tapes on the moon in this sealed vault for a million years. The project is canceled in 1988. Now fast forward a million years in the future, a break-off robot faction has discovered this, but they can't unlock the computer because the whole project is basically password protected by a system where they need a human being to sing a song inspired by the 1980s with emotion, and that's the one thing that robots can't do. Because future robots are very powerful, but they're like perfect, and that's their flaw, is because they always crave that human imperfection, which is what causes like emotions and love and all that kind of stupid crap. But unlocking this project has obviously been complicated. It's been difficult because, humans are for the most part extinct, but there's still a handful of them out there. So these freedom fighter robots or whatever, I haven't given them a name yet. They look like people, but there are robots that look like people. And this woman's been, so the main character but she's basically like been in a freezing chamber for like 500,000 years. They wake her up and indoctrinate her to the 1980s with 10,000 VHS tapes, and she has to become inspired by them. And she's a singer, because the robots keep a couple humans because they love human singing, because once again, there's the flaws. The robots actually kind of want to be human, but they're not, so they have to they treat like human singing and art like a drug. So she's inspired by the 1980s. Does she activate Project Omega Ronin? I mean, obviously. But what then happens with Project Omega Ronin? It's like its own self-aware entity that then is also inspired by, in fact, the only thing it knows is 1980s music videos. So as far as it's concerned, the peak of civilization is Whitesnake. Which, as far as I'm concerned, the peak of civilization is Whitesnake. So this is like the most powerful thing in the universe, but it's kind of broken, but it knows a couple things. Like, it doesn't know much, but it knows how to fold space. So that makes traveling across the universe much easier. Like, you've all seen Event Horizon, right? So it's like Event Horizon, except not nearly as weird and creepy. And just hysterical. That movie's so funny. So anyway, there's like a quantum jump drive in the space shuttle, which they then use as a tour bus to travel the universe and not just fight the robots, but also play music for the robots, which lets their guard down because they're assassins. Shh, don't tell anyone. So it's a book with a soundtrack, and I've been out of the studio for a while, getting back in next week to start working on the original score for the graphic novel. So it'll be a book that you can read with a companion record on vinyl, and it'll also be digital too, but it's going to have a soundtrack created specifically for the book and the adventure, which is going to be a lot of fun. So I'll be back in the music studio next week working on some new tunes. And the whole project is up on Kickstarter right now, so you can check it out. Let's see, what's next? There's a bunch of books I'm working on developing right now that have nothing to do with any of this. They're nonfiction, but that's coming out. Those will be January. And hopefully Ethel the Cyborg Ninja, the trilogy, wrap that one up with any luck by the end of the year. And hopefully also start Omega Ronin Book 2 shortly after Book 1 is completed. See, that's what's going on around here. It's pretty fun at the moment. Maybe next year will be super boring. Who knows? Who knows how the year's going to end? Maybe next year will be like, here's a instructional book on how to do this thing. And it's serious. But Spock, what makes Star Trek 4 so good is that it doesn't really fit into the rest of the series. It's like this one kind of offshoot movie that just nails the charisma of the show and like the team. Like it's, they're not. I mean, is the Enterprise even in that movie? I don't even think the Enterprise is even in it. They're flying with the Bounty or whatever it's called, HMS Bounty, the captured Klingon ship. They don't have a crew. Like Robin Curtis is in there for a moment just to remind you that you don't care. You're not Savick. You weren't in Cheers. Who is this imposter? Get her out of here. Get her off the bridge. The entire movie just focuses on pretty much Kirk and McCoy and Spock, but like it's the team. Though they could have given the other ones a little more screen time. Like Scotty doesn't do a whole lot. Like Uhura doesn't do much of anything except talk to the computer every now and then. They say, I have one job. It's a dumb job, but I'm going to do it well. You know the movie. And Chekhov is only there to say Wessel. So he doesn't do anything else except fall off of whatever and bang his head and say nuclear Wessels, which is hysterical. Oh, and Sulu doesn't do a whole lot. He just flies the Huey and delivers the transparent aluminum and rocks that sweet leather jacket. I love the music in that movie when they start exploring San Francisco. It's like poppy jazz and it sounds just like that. Exactly, that's exactly the song. The I Say Screw You song is in there. One of the all-time best Star Trek moments ever. And Kirk saying double dumbass on you, which never gets old. But is it better than Star Trek 2? Oh, that's a tough one. Ricardo Montalban's in Star Trek 2. I mean, come on. And he's jacked. Maybe this will be the subject of an upcoming Who Defeats. Star Trek 4 versus Star Trek 2. I see that is a tough one. If it was like Star Trek 4 versus Star Trek 1, I mean, that's a no-brainer. If you can stay awake through Star Trek 1 past like the half-hour point, you're doing a good job. Though I kind of like V'ger. Like the ending of that movie's pretty good, though. Kirk unit. And the sign of a Trekkie is if you like Star Trek 3. Now, it's not nearly as good as Star Trek 2 or 4, but still pretty good. I kind of like Star Trek 3. We don't speak of Star Trek 5. And Star Trek 6, also directed by Nicholas Meyer, who did Star Trek 2, is excellent. I think Shatner directed number 5, but we don't speak of number 5. It doesn't exist. There is literally no redeeming quality whatsoever in that movie. None. I saw it in the theater. I think I'm still scarred. I went in expecting Star Trek 4, and I left not getting Star Trek 4. Who defeats Star Trek 2 versus Star Trek 4? Oh, they're both so quotable. Fourth one probably a little more so than number 2, but number 2 is like a better action movie. It's really great action scenes. Project Genesis is super cool. Like the Enterprise is awesome. See, that is one thing Star Trek 4 is missing, is the Enterprise. So, yeah, I mean, this one might be a tie. Star Trek 2 and 4. Now, like everyone else, I gave Picard Season 3 a chance, and it was like fan service, but they got the whole cast back, which was what made it fun. Like, it's always awesome seeing Worf just, being Worf. Anyway, I don't have anything else to talk about. That's it. I mean, I could ramble on about Star Trek endlessly, I suppose. Now, it's an interesting turn of events I've always been more of like a Star Wars kind of guy, right? But more recently, I think when you start to really look at the catalog, maybe not more recently, just maybe now that I'm absorbing like the whole Star Trek catalog versus the whole Star Wars catalog, it's really no contest. Star Trek is kicking the crap out of Star Wars these days. Now, it's not all good. Some of the shows are definitely much weaker than others, but I think maybe the thing with Star Trek is they have like one mission, right? Just discover new worlds and maybe don't screw everything up. That's basically their job. Just do that. Star Wars is a lot more open-ended. Like, what is the mission of Star Wars? To sell action figures. I mean, once they got away from that, they lost focus. So that's all I got. I'm gonna go play pinball later. Go check out Omega Ronin, Kickstarter, OmegaRonin.com.